Okay. There's a full trauma called overhead, and we have an incoming trauma ETA 5 minutes. There's a motorcycle accident, the ambulance is coming within 5 minutes, and then the full trauma was called overhead. Who's number 1?
I have 203 available, and Christina and Riza will be our primary team.
Okay. Unknown male, 50s, motorcycle accident on I-5. Patient ejected, helmet in place. Unconscious in the field, intubated, cervical collar applied.
Okay, so our is that the next one?
Here you go. Let's grab the multiple trauma card, spread it out, and I'll update you once we know more.
Okay, so our trauma nurse has gone down to the ER. You can even just hang that up doors, Christina. Who's got 5? Okay, a couple people have 5 because we're all working together. So everyone step in place and start working on your specific role. She said to start spreading out. So grab what you might need to spread out with. Our surgeon's going to the ER. That's excellent news for us. Our primary nurse is setting up the room.
I'm identifying hands and supplies to open.
Rochelle, why don't you set up this side because Christy's got a long list of things to prepare.
Oh, you know, just look at stuff.
Go ahead and just turn on Potter and get it situated.
Yeah, sounds like you. Your basic set. Sounds great.
Kind of just prepare for a wide variety, whether it's vascular or belly or thoracic.
I'm not sure how far I'm supposed to take this.
I know.
Just spread out. Just spread out. We will actually be opening the pack and popping pans. Disposables may not be totally necessary.
Here's
for
the
opening
nursing
packs.
stuff.
Nursing staff can go there. Thank you.
Are you using this table record? Which one?
Oh, it's on. And until we actually know what it is, I'll leave this alone. Probably just set major basic and I'm gonna just
Do you ever do laparoscopic trauma?
Probably
No.
not.
No. So book Walter. Probably the
Do you want me to actually
minute.
open this?
Yeah, go ahead and open that.
Good question.
Right. And then maybe the full.
So this is a spare trauma cart. So we have a fully stocked one already in the core. Whatever you can
You
open.
can put the book Walter on top of this one. Yeah, so we need the blades and the ring. So work together.
Yeah, just stand here.
Well, it hasn't like, we haven't gotten the code that it's gonna cut off yet. So we're just spread it out. So the accessories has a lot of like long stuff. Things like bariatric, like super long things I keep on because for the most part, these do have long, our normal instruments have long stuff. It's just that they're really, yeah. And thoracoscopy stuff, probably. Mostly for the trying to, like, I have the vascular trauma.
This is a very normal
There is something
experience.
vascular, but I don't have that. You're like, I don't know.
The backwards at least.
To be honest with you, I haven't actually done a belly trauma. Yeah, they're all crazy. So, and then right now I'm waiting for.
Yeah, she said to open.
Oh, open? It's coming.
Go ahead and spread out.
Okay. So yeah, I would wait and then usually they'll let us know like it's coming up.
We do need to open those. I know we have experience with that. Yep, go ahead and do that, guy.
No, I mean, we have long
You can always
instruments
refer
for
back
these,
to your
but
card
unless
and
they're
we'll
like
print
really
you
big.
a few specific things you'll need for these patients.
Yeah, basically major basics, basic intraocular vascular trauma, and the total. Oh, right, fluid donor.
Is that it? Okay. You got it. I would take that one.
I want as much as possible you to act like you are getting an actual trauma patient in this room. You never know, we might trip Kelly in the hall.
What is this for?
So sometimes it's why the patient keep airflow from coming up. We don't typically use it here, so you can use it. You'll see those come around these here all the time. Yeah, so where do we keep long transfer boards in the OR?
Over there.
Yeah, by the double doors.
So we're spread out, and right now we're waiting for the call coming
Yes.
up, and then we start.
Yes,
moving
so
on.
our friend Christina is in the ER, patients arriving, they're getting evaluated. We're continuing to set up. This usually happens a lot in conjunction, but I wanted to provide an opportunity to kind of get step one out of the way before Christina calls us with any news. So then from there, Christy, all you need is just the green slip sheet on top of your transfer board. Why are we using a long transfer board?
They have a stable.
Yeah, motorcycle accident, we immediately assume based on mechanism of injury that they could have a cervical spine injury. So they are going to be in full suicide precautions for the duration of our care. Okay, number 6.
Well, where's the cell saver in the food truck?
Great question. So something I want you to think about as a nurse is, do we need these and where are they? So, Christy, where's our code card? If we need it.
Should be out
Yep,
in here.
right, one in each
But
core.
this cell saver, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, you can call an anesthesia tech during the day, but at night we might not have one. So where do we, any ideas about where we keep one? Yeah, so there's actually one outside by the multiple trauma cart. So it was right there, it's usually set up and ready to just bring into the room. Okay, number 6, go ahead, trauma nurse from the ER.
Patient is unknown, 7-2, MRN number 6000544892. Patient just got here, is unstable, we're initiating MTP. FAST is positive for fluid in the LUQ. They may not be stable enough to go to CT, go ahead and plan for open XLAP. I will call you once I know we are coming up. We're going to CT first.
So that was Christina talking to Kayla, our charge nurse, who is then going to fulfill her role.
I'm going to take down the patient's info, schedule the case, and call Christy and say, go ahead and open the room for an XLAB. Patient is not stable, may have initiated NTP. They may come straight up if the patient is not stable for CT.
Okay.
Which we already did.
And I say,
And then Christy would tell the room basically the same information. So go ahead and start opening. We're opening up for an XLAP. So as the primary nurse, you heard that the patient is initiating NTP. What do you need to make sure that you have? Belmont? Yep. Anybody know what a fast is? The trauma nurse said the fast was positive. Any idea what that is? Yeah. So it's a focused assessment of sonography for trauma patients. They quickly take just an ultrasound probe and they scan the heart and all 4 quadrants looking for any free fluid or pericardial injury. If it's positive and they're unstable, they often come straight up to the operating room, which is what's happening with our motorcycle injury patient.
You want us to literally open everything?
Worry most about the pans and getting risers situated. The disposables, as long as we have something for our surgeon to wear, that's all she cares about, right? Right. Okay.
oh, it says love you
The surgeon's making this a DIY project, don't expect this in the future. on 12.
I do. Patient's unstable, we can't maintain their pressure, we're coming straight up.
Okay, so they are coming up. Our scrub and secondary nurse are getting their stuff all situated. Christy, do you feel ready to receive a patient getting MTP with certain final precautions in your room? The Belmont's in there in the corner. Good question. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so our primary nurse is going to call the blood bank. So it says only been done in the ER, they've already hooked it up, it's running. But if you need any additional rounds of MTP, where would you get it from? Yep. Additional rounds of MTP, we would call blood bank. That's correct. Okay, so our patient can go get on their stretcher. Our trauma nurse is going to bring them in here shortly. They are in the elevators. And then the air silence before the patient.
Usually as soon as the more information I get, the more I'll ask for the specific things.
So usually we'll kind of be like, hey, I need this.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, they have a vascular thing, so like I would like ask for a vascular treatment or like.
Exactly. So all we know right now is we have a positive ultrasound in left upper quadrant. What organs live up there that can be harmed? Spleen. That's a big one. Those like to bleed like stink. The tail of the liver is over there, so that's a risk factor as well. It could be also something happening up in the thoracic space as well that's giving them the presence of fluid in the left upper quadrant. Here comes our patient.
I'm hearing thoracic thing, so probably they're opening some.
That's right. Okay, everyone pause for a briefing from our trauma nurse.
This patient's unknown, 7'2", estimated age in the 50s, motorcycle accident with ejection. The patient was helmeted and unconscious in the field, cervical collar age 5. Positive FAST and LUQ, NDE initiated, 2 unstable with BP. The plan is to explore his abdomen and possible splenectomy.
Okay, Rochelle, you're our anesthesia who's going to help transport this patient. Yep, their cervical collar is on. It's a very young-looking 50-year-old male.
Like, so I'll probably ask for like.
Yeah. Well, it's totally up to Kelly. This is her level. Are you okay with transfer? Yeah.
But yeah, those are the things I would ask for.
Okay.
Your arms are right at all times.
Patient is intubated. You don't have to put out there. Just getting it ready for the morning case. Okay, Chris, arm over here would be great. Our surgeon's coming in. What's our next priority for this patient?
Open.
Yes, for Sharon, it is to open. What is our next priority for the patient at the level of the patient? Yep.
Safety strap.
Safety strap.
You're not allowed to go anywhere.
We'll be kind.
STD.
Yep, STDs. What else? We're hooking up the patient like Rochelle said. We get them all situated on the monitor.
Holy.
We replace the Foley. We're not going to do that to Kelly in real life. So we transfer the patient to the OR bed using full spinal precautions in case you didn't see it. We are setting them up, placing the Foley. Now what?
Grinding pad and prep.
Grounding pad and prep. So, how wide do we prep for a full trauma? Very wide. From where to where?
Yes.
Yep. Neck to knees. Bedside to bedside. Very, very wide. And in what form do we normally prep? We're using chloroprep, we're using betadine. Are we doing things perfectly or are we just dumping?
Dump it.
We take 2 bottles of betadine and splash and dash, okay? You open them, pour. We're not gonna soak Kelly in betadine, that's not very nice of us to do. We're gonna prep very wide. Our surgeon's scrubbing in, and our scrub tech is getting ready to drape.
No, but everybody works this down. It's a criminal. You get what I give you. Move it.
And we're draping.
Careful what you volunteer.
Our patient's very cooperative and anesthetized, so there's no
Right, please.
You're asleep. Stop running.
I'm not sure anesthesia got that too there. Ryza knows exactly her role. She's ready to pass off cords. Who's ready to receive cords? Who's our circulator?
To the right.
Sharon's got one side, Christy's got the other side.
We'll be right behind you. Wait. Cut.
Okay, surgery starts. We have lots of blood loss. Pack those lots in there. The secondary RN is supporting the field opening as needed. Sharon knows her spot over here to support the field. The primary RN is documenting and leads communication with the blood bank if we needed more rounds. How are we on MTP anesthesia?
The bleeding will be good. I need another round of
Getting more laps.
Another round of MTP.
10 laps.
Christy, we're calling blood bank.
20.
Give me the patient name.
Okay. We're packing. There's a lot of laps packed in this abdomen. We completed 4 rounds of MTP and an emergency splenectomy is completed. Woo!
What's going on in there, doctor? What's happening?
Tax is preparing to close the patient because we did our splenectomy. The bleeding stopped, right?
Great, here's closing.
Anesthesia slowing down the resuscitation, right? Because the bleeding has stopped. And our patient becomes very unstable.
Okay.
Give me the snail saw.
There's concern for hemorrhage at the site. Give me a surgical saw. What do we need?
It's just there.
And where is it?
In here.
Good job. Yep. Break it open.
Right up there. And then the saw blade.
I got it.
Going in the deep end, guys. Let's go.
Okay. Now, 1 second, Kayla. Good job. Yeah. Everybody should be moving. Everybody pause. The field can keep opening. Christy, what do you need? What did she just say we needed? Patient's crashing. We're cracking the chest. What are you expecting? Are you expecting to find a very happy beating heart in there? No. What do you need?
Start CPR.
Okay.
Okay, but the chest is open, so we're not doing CPR from a non-sterile perspective. Internal defibrillator paddles. Call SPD, they're on a table in the core.
Panic.
What else do you need to
I need
find?
internal paddles, please.
We need
internal cardiac massage. Patient's dying.
Cardiac massage.
Where's the defibrillator?
Oh, it's right outside the door.
I've seen it.
So we need the cardiac defibrillator from the heart room. Hey, look, Kayla got it.
Thank you.
This is why she's our charge
Can you
nurse.
actually open this?
Yes.
Guys, you're still bleeding. We're fibrillating.
Sharon and Christy are setting up our cardiac monitor.
Okay.
So the heart open.
So it's already connected. But it's already
Okay, yep.
We don't have that down
So,
here. So this is literally just for shocking. There's not going to be any cardiac monitoring for this. This is not connected to the machine. That's right.
does this go like this?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
They pop out. They have to lock in.
Yeah, insert and twist.
Yeah.
So Ryza's assembling our internal defibrillator defibrillator paddles, and Kayla open the heart that we're going to defibrillate.
Oh, sorry. Still defibrillating, guys. Charge 23.
Sharon and Christy are going to get that monitor to charge to 20.
We have a heartbeat.
We have a heartbeat.
Yay. Did you feel it?
It's like.
Okay, now train spots. Christy's going to do the next round. We're back in defib.
Dr. Ballard, you're back in defib, guys.
Christy back at the monitor. Sharon, let Christy push that button.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Everybody clear.
I didn't register.
I've never seen this.
I'll restart it. Okay.
So, we're defib. I need to stop. Charge the paddle for 20.
So reset, select everything 1, 2, 3. Okay, so energy select. So it's on number 2. Yeah. Okay.
We're at 20. What do we say before we charge?
Charge.
Clear.
Clear.
So we are charging. I'm clear, you're clear, we're all clear. Shocking.
The only thing with these guys
Yeah.
is they're internal and you can touch the patient.
Yes, you can.
Keep it in your head, not do it, but this is
Yeah.
a heart to heart. It's not throwing fluid through your entire body.
Yes, so your energy
So
transfer.
this is a direct electric.
Yeah, the energy transfer is just going between the paddles, but the joules are also pretty small, but we don't want to risk an injury.
For charge.
Christy.
Shocking.
It is at this.
Good. You have a heartbeat again.
Okay. Let's see here. Anesthesia's struggling to stay ahead. Patient's very unstable. We have no pressure on the art line. The tech today is checking for a femoral pulse.
I won't check for your criminal.
We've done internal cardiac massage. We have done an internal defibrillation twice. The surgeon's exploring the chest and sees that the IVC has torn away from the right ventricle. And we have determined the futility in continuing resuscitation, and we call a time of death.
Time of death, 7:23. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and then if that isn't the truth, they just like, okay, bye. Okay, let's get everything off of our friend Kelly, and then we'll debrief. Good job, Kelly. She's the most amazing trauma patient.
So as far as the defibrillator goes, is it with or?
So for internal cardiac defibrillation, the only one that has the adapter is your monitors up in the heart
I
rate.
have to go stairs to 3A.
We're working on getting.
Okay. Or send somebody else. Okay.
Yeah. At that point, you're phoning a friend.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a lot of
But it could be like anybody. Good to know. You can call me.
Oh my gosh, he lives.
Even though we called it.
I know. Every once in a while, they just come right back. Okay. So let's circle around for a debrief, guys. Okay. For our debrief, what went well? Communication. Okay. Riza, what went well?
I had help opening, and like as I learned more information, I had a support to get me all the things I needed.
That secondary circulator role is a huge deal. I mean, that makes or breaks your case, truly. Christy, what went well? I'm sure you can think of something that went well in this room this morning. It's stressful. It's okay to feel stressed.
You learned how to work
Yeah.
the defibrillator today.
We intentionally assign people into roles that they're not necessarily familiar with, okay? There's only a few people in here who have done this before, who have done a trauma and tax, who have worked weekend or night or come in on call. So I expect there to be a little bit of discomfort even in a simulated environment, and that's okay. What obstacles did you face as a team?
I didn't know about the internal defibrillator, so that was new to me. So I learned something.
You did great assembling that if you've never touched them before, because usually that's a source of panic for
Also,
our
I've
dear
never
scrubs.
seen the weird external stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So You got that assembled with no help?
Well, Paula helped.
No, she had help. It does help having a Paula and a Sharon coming from our heart room. They grab chests all the time, they do it for a living. For us, it's like Panic at the Disco. Any other obstacles you faced as a team?
I think standing while everybody else is moving. There's always something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you know something or not, there's always something to do, whether it's getting more fluid, whether it's listening to somebody yelling.
So my question, as the trauma designator, I am not the primary.
That's correct.
What would be my role once the patient is in the room?
That's an excellent question. So your role is to support in whatever way is needed.
Okay.
So often, we would wheel the patient in, we would guide the spinal concussions, transfer the patient to the OR table, and then help them get ready to do the surgery.
Right.
That's where time tends to stop is once the patient's on the bed and the surgeon scrubbed in and just wants to cut somebody open to try to save their life. So the trauma designated nurse helps facilitate that and get the patient ready to go. From there, often they're helping with MTP.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I didn't want to step
Yeah.
on the primary nurse's toes.
Exactly.
And so I was like, and that's, as I hand it off to them,
Yes.
it's my patient, but no, you know what I mean?
Right, you're there for continuity of care. You saw what happened in the ER. You know everything that patient's been through. But you're right, you're not primary
Right.
because if another full trauma got called,
I would be running
guess
out
what?
the door.
Yeah,
Right.
you'd have to be able to leave and step out,
But
and that
that
has
only
happened.
occurs if we have a trauma designated RN, otherwise we're going
Normally
down
it's
to
the
the ER
charge,
and getting one.
like-
If there's no trauma designated person, the charges are all trained to fulfill that role.
Right. That's
And
how
so-
I've always seen the charge to it, never
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah. So as more people get trained, you might see this in action more often. Right now, it would be like myself or Kyle or one of the assistant nurse managers if somebody other than the charge nurse went downstairs. So yeah, from there, you're just supporting. MTP is a great help. We want to try to keep this triangulated positioning of our nurses so nobody's tripping over each other, right? So Sharon is at the field supporting, grabbing anything we need from the core. Christy's working on our administrative stuff, documenting, keeping up with blood bank, calling for anything that we might need, checking blood, and then our trauma nurses helping with MTP and whatever else may come up. So with an inexperienced team, if we're cracking a chest, our trauma nurse would be involved in guiding what we need and from where. I'd say a big obstacle that we are facing right now is that we need a internal defibrillator adapter for our current defibrillators we have in every core. Because nobody wants to run upstairs to a heart room to grab that monitor. And when you need it, it's an absolute bustle emergency. Okay? Did you see anything today that you will take with you in your future practice?
How quickly Riza opened things. And
Riza
got everything-
flew.
Not opened, but got them on the field.
Yeah.
And like had all her cans and was still made it look pretty neat.
Yeah,
It was
she's
kind of amazing.
confident and decisive, right? She knew what she needed just by the fact that we said TAB-SLAP. Okay, we talked a little bit more about what organs might be injured in the left upper quadrant, positive fast. But really, from there, it was these two, Riza and Sharon, who made those decisions and got that field ready to roll.
I just opened.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Anything else somebody will take with them going forward? What will you remember from this simulation?
Takes a team, for sure, to make sure it works, right?
And good communication.
Yeah.
So people aren't doing the same thing.
Yeah, communication is huge. We have had actual traumas where people are literally tripping over each other to try to do the same thing. You know your role, you communicate it. If there's people crossing lines, you need to set them straight and remind them what their role is, because it doesn't help anyone get anything done faster if everyone's trying to do the same thing, okay? Closed loop communication is huge. We saw some of that here today. I want you to really focus on it going forward in your next emergency. I know we practice it in BLS and ACLS, but it is huge in these cases because you have a surgeon, my dear Paula, elbow deep in Kelly's abdomen, And she's not looking up, she can't see who she's yelling at. She just says, I need the internal paddles. We need whoever's responsible for getting that closed loop, right? Grabbing the internal paddles and the monitor. That way they know without having to look up that what they just said was heard and reciprocated, okay? It's kind of a hard thing to get into, but you can practice that on a daily basis. You might get a weird look from our plastic surgeons, but who cares?
We close loop every day.
Yeah.
We have closed loop communication every day.
That's something I do, like the doctors mumble a lot, so I repeat it louder for
Exactly.
everybody else in the room.
Yeah. So yeah, it's absolutely essential in here. You already could tell how loud it was, and this doesn't even have a real patient. Probably didn't even yell that much. Okay. So
I was expecting more.
next time, she's gonna give her
drama.
we'll give her grace today only.
For me too, like I literally didn't know what was in this part
Yes.
or like what was even in here.
Yes.
So just kind of getting a refresher on
That was
what to
actually a
open.
good challenge for sharing, because even though she knows how to crack a chest, where is it in
Yeah,
our multiple
it
trauma
was-
cart
it was
versus
like-
our cabbage? Yeah, so our multiple trauma cart has all sorts of things. The accessory cart has stuff for the argon beam, impact ligatures, GIA loads. We have everything on these two shelves for cracking a chest. So you have the striker saw, battery, and blade, the Lebsche knife. If Sharon didn't get that open fast enough, you know that surgeon's gonna want the Lebsche knife instead. The chest set, an entire bin of gloves labeled for each tax doctor. You have all sorts of hemostatics of all kinds and varieties. Trauma tends to favor quick clot, which is like a big lap with kaolin clay that helps assist the patient's natural clotting cascade. Our trauma suture tray. Has anyone seen this since it changed last week? Probably not. So it's the same tray, just a different setup. So it's just reorganized. Each type of suture has its own row. There's a little bit of variety in this row. Underneath you have a color-coded label that matches your suture in case you have an empty bin you're restocking. And then you have a clear cover over the top and each bin is labeled.
Do we have part numbers and how many should be in there?
It's 4 of each, all the time. Go ahead, Riza.
Oh, speaking of where things are, where did the internal paddles come from?
Yeah, that one had to come from SPD.
Okay.
Kayla was so
it's not
fast.
up here.
She just like darted out there, was miraculously sitting there in the core with the monitor.
Has ever gotten here.
So is that not normal to have it in the core already like that?
Or
Not for us.
No.
How many
Not
do
down
we
here.
have? I'm guessing we probably don't use them too much.
Yeah.
I would be like, sitting on the green.
We have,
It's supposed to be on there.
Because we have one up there.
Yeah.
They're supposed to.
we have a pretty good part. It's pretty unusual that we would do this in trauma, although we've done it a few times in the last 6 months. Going forward, depending on the part, if we need to order more, we can always get a set purchase for trauma and put on the cart.
So I know some of the defibrillators were not working. Are they all back? So how many do we have right now? 2?
Monitors?
Yeah.
Keep faster,
Oh.
from our room.
Good question. Yeah, I got called the day your monitor went down.
Okay.
Let's see here. Anything to cover? Riza, you want to grab the internal paddles again and show how you assemble those? Because this is something that kind of freaks people out if they've never seen it before, if they don't work in the heart room. Yeah, exactly.
How do you eject? Oh, okay.
No, that's a charge.
Turn.
Oh, just turn it.
There you go.
Okay. So it's like a little J hook. I felt
Yeah.
like, I mean, with anything, you just kind of press hard enough. There's not a button.
And you
Sometimes
figure it
things
out
will
until it locks. Yeah, so you insert and twist right in the reverse motion to get the paddles out after the cage. Yeah.
So in and over.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't force them in. It finds a spot that you push and turn.
Nice. Now let's do the blade on the striker saw.
Oh, yes.
I
So
love
that-
how Paula actually activated.
I threw it away.
Oh, okay. So I learned this today.
Sharon is being so cautious with her sharp, she already threw away the saw.
So you load it like a normal recip saw, but the sharp side down towards the handle.
Yeah, so the blade faces the different way. We've had it loaded backwards before.
So is it pretty traditional to have it loaded towards the handle? Is that?
Yeah, sharp side down.
Down, my screws go up, so. I just-
Oh, okay. But you can change the orientation, I think.
No, yeah.
No? You have to actually, okay. Some saws you can, but.
Yeah, sometimes.
You load the blade first, and then you have this, what do you call this? Like a guide,
Mhm.
and it clicks in.
And just make sure the blade is in between the holes in the middle.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll go off to the side,
Uh-huh.
and you always want to test it before.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a close-up.
If you never make sure it's on
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's
onto the
both
speeds.
a low
I
and
usually do double arrows, which is the faster speed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which one to throw. Okay.
Oh yeah, they want to get through there fast.
And when you put the battery on, always do a test run because sometimes
Mhm.
the batteries aren't always charged.
Mm-hmm. Hooray! In some ways, that reminds me of like our craniatome, where the guide goes on after the blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, what kind of trauma scenario would you like to do next time, guys? So this was an abdomen to open chest. Any scenarios that make you nervous?
Yeah, because that's
Crane.
the next biggest one.
Mhm.
That has
We do a lot of things here.
Yeah.
That and then with a bit
We
more
do a
comfortable, but-
lot of cranies here.
Really
and
good
we're
at setting school flags.
Yes. Oh, that's so, and it's always too big for the Nalgene jar. Always. Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. We should run through a cranie, and we're also trying to work. So you saw a lot of work happening in conjunction in these cases. Historically, with our cranies, in-room time to surgery start time is a little bit longer, even though some of these patients are just as sick and needing surgery just as quickly. So we are working specifically in cranies with our neurosurgeons to have more work done concurrently and get that patient prepped and situated. So you can definitely take some of what we worked on today into the next cranie you see or into that simulation. Any questions, comments, feedback? Let me know if something comes up down the road. We'll work on a trauma cranie. That will be fun. And I think, what time is it? Whew, time just flies. We're just having such a good time. We're like right in an hour, which was perfect. I know you guys have to go do leadership corner. There's like a one station they didn't want you to skip, but it'll be actually happening in here. So Natalie will be here shortly. We'll hang together. And I'm gonna stop this recording.